What happens if we dare to tear off the mask of professionalism and actually risk showing up for real? I'm your host, Miriam Hartness, and this is Unprofessionalism.
Companies are really good at killing people's initiative. If you want to sell your idea, if you're really convinced about your idea, you have to fight like hell. My motto, and I've done that in my career, I'd rather be fired for one conversation than being fired for 100 conversations I didn't have. If I'm wrong with my idea, at least I'm committed.
Gustavo, welcome back.
Great to be here. Great to see you.
Yes. And I'd like to kick it off with an invitation for you to share an anecdote of a time when you did something that could be considered unprofessional and still maybe was the best thing you could have done in that moment.
Awesome. And by the way, we didn't rehearse this, so I'm kind of reflecting, where do I start? Because I have so many. Many years ago, I started my career before doing what I'm doing now in advertising, right? So I was running a local agency for a large network, no names mentioned, and we're having one of these cool, super inspirational, but actually ineffective or inefficient regional meetings where everyone joins, everyone presents, and we're the coolest thing on earth. And there was this guy there presenting, the regional VP, president, whatever, talking bullshit, whatever. He was a little bit drunk, if you know what I mean. So his personality was worse than ever. And of course, I was getting to this, and there was a lady sitting right next to me and saying, this guy always, I can't remember what I actually said, but of course, I was mocking the guy and criticizing him because of lack of self-awareness, right? Mm. Which happens in these meetings. You tend to talk what you shouldn't have. And the lady looked at me and said, oh, yes, of course. Yeah, I know that. I'm his wife.
Oops.
So I thought that because there are these massive regional meetings with thousands of people from all different countries, that it was a colleague, someone that worked in an agency, not a, the level one. So I basically said, I fuck it up. And I realized I have, many choices, but in that moment I thought about two choices. One was apologizing, and the other one, oh my shit. And I said to her, I apologize, but I stand by what I say. I mean, I respect him, but sometimes he, and so I try to, instead of trying to, I didn't mean to say that, I say, I screw up. I'm going to own my words.
Wow. And how did she react, and did it have an impact?
Well, you never know. So I wasn't fired, or the person didn't come to me, but at some point, when I try to read people's faces, and I always like looking at people's faces, the guy was looking at me through the distance, and I say, he got the message, but I don't know. But he never really addressed me, right?
It's an interesting example because it is quite unprofessional and it is very human. Is it something that you usually do to be upfront with people with your feedback?
I am, but I usually give it to the person. So in this case, I was kind of one thing that I wouldn't say gossiping, but not talking to the person, but to about that person, which usually I try to avoid if possible.
Yeah.
The same way I want, if people don't like anything I do, I like people to go and tell me directly. So not keep it to themselves or to someone else.
Did it lead to you becoming more careful, maybe? In the next times, turning to your neighbors and sharing your brutal, honest, unfiltered thoughts? Or did you realize that it's actually safe to do that?
I wouldn't say careful, because I don't want to silence what I think, right? And actually, but trying to be more mindful about it. Okay, if I think something about someone, I shouldn't be just sharing with anyone, right? Because it feels like it doesn't help. It's just venting, and it's kind of a coward act to complain about a situation or about a person with someone else with a different situation, but not confronting it.
Yeah. And now, obviously, I'm thinking of the book that you just published, Forward Talk. And to what extent this experience, or maybe accumulation of your previous experiences of speaking upfront with colleagues or not speaking out the truth, creates something like a debt.
It creates, right? But I mean, what I call conversational depth, but we also need to make sure that we channel those communications the right way with the right person, with the right. One of the patterns that I describe that hurt conversation is blame.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, I was blaming the guy for, instead of, hey, and now I'm connecting the dots. Probably I did that in the past, but now when I'm talking to you, that at that point, I'm talking long time ago, like, I don't know if it's 30 years, whatever, digital was just the beginning of marketing, right? And I was telling the guy that digital would become the future and it would eat TV and other stuff and whatever, blah, blah. And people would buy things online. I'm talking really long time ago, right? And the guy laughed at me and said, that's never going to happen, right? So there was a little bit of that. I was trying to push, guys, we need to move into a new direction. And then I quit my job a couple of months later and started my own digital shop, right? And then this guy's boss came and wanted to buy it. So we become and say, like, if you didn't see it when I was mentioned, like, I'm not going to easy your path, right? So figure it out. I'm not going to sell my company to someone that didn't have the vision.
Yeah.
But so somehow, if you see what I'm saying, that maybe I was a little bit frustrated and the actual conversation wasn't that the guy was an asshole, maybe he was, whatever, but it was that he didn't share my vision about how fast digital would transform marketing at that time, right? So that's the other thing, that we manifest the friction on one conversation, but actually there's other things. So that's what I'm now kind of saying, that my anger or my blame was based on a frustration that was mine.
Yeah.
Because we didn't agree on something.
And then it's so easy to just, to project our own shit on someone else.
Yeah.
And then basically you have the wrong conversations. And I think which makes me think of our unmet needs. So you wanted to be heard, I assume, with your vision and have this conversation. And since it was dismissed as something that's not important, then we dismiss the person in return.
Yeah. But then that doesn't go away because you don't solve the problem. You know what I mean? You change the culprit, whom to blame, but the issue is still unresolved.
Yeah. How has your relationship to doing the work changed from being an employee in a large agency to doing your own work?
It's different in many aspects, right? So when I created that shop, then another company bought it. So I went back to the corporate world, and then they moved me around different countries and places until then I restarted again out of frustration my business. And the big difference is to choose who I work with. And when I say this, people find, you can do this because you're doing great, your business is successful. But I say, no, my business is successful because I started doing this, which is I fired a lot of clients, and many of them even before I got started. So
sorry, I want to hear more of that.
Well, I decided that if I'm, going back to we complain about everything, no? So I was at some point leading different advertising agencies, and of course, my business turned into doing something exciting to doing boring work that you need to grow more money, more people, like everything was, and I was delivering on that. I was successful, and they paid me a lot of money, but I was the saddest person on earth. At least we need to work.
Yeah.
Because they say, one day they say, you're going to get this bonus if you grow the company by 150%. And my boss said, you're never going to do that. And then at some point he said, well, I don't know how we're going to pay that big money because I did it. But that lasted like nothing, because I had to basically push everything to grow, but not grow meaningfully. So when I started my business, not only I changed from marketing and different stuff to getting more into the culture, So not in the ideas, but what gets the ideas killed, right?
Yeah.
Because I always say that people or companies have or teams have much more ideas and talent than they think, but the culture kills those initiatives. So they don't need to bring people with new ideas. So I decided, sorry, I'm going a little bit on a rant here, but I decided that I want to choose who I want to work with. I don't want to work with assholes. I don't want to work with people that say, we care about the team, the culture, but it's just window dressing. And every time I felt that a client wasn't committed to do that, boom. And when I have a first conversation with a so Chief Human Resource Officer, for people that are not familiar with the acronyms here in the US,
Thank you.
or a CEO, I tell them, look, this is a two-way conversation. You're seeing if I'm the right fit, but I'm also going to have a choice to see if I want to work with you. And some people don't like that. Oh, that's unprofessional. Actually, they told me that, no, I'm the client. They say, well, but it's like a partnership. There are two sides of the story, and both needs to be on board.
Yeah, I love that. And why would you call that unprofessional? Or why do you think is it considered unprofessional by some clients?
I wouldn't call it people tell me, they have told me that that's now I'm connecting the stories, like one from a large, huge Fortune 100 company saying like, that's so unprofessional of you. Because we're this huge company, we want to work with you. This could be a huge opportunity for you and your team and blah, blah. And I say, but so what?
Yeah, I love that. And it's because what I hear a lot that professionalism and relates very often to the unwritten rules, the hidden assumptions, something we expect others to do, and then we call it professional. And if someone breaks them, we dismiss them as unprofessional. But we never talked about these rules.
Yeah, but no, yes, and building on that, the rules have to do with power in the end, because who sets the rules, right? You have a partner, and with your partner, I assume that you discuss how do you want to. I like to do this with my wife from time to time. We've been together for many years, and it's like, okay, how does our partnership look like? Right? Let's set some kind of expectations. And in the workplace, the definition of what's professional or not usually comes from the top or comes from certain people who want to impose their beliefs. And this is what happened with this person. So her belief was, I'm a huge executive from a large company. All the vendors should bow at me and say, I love to work with you. I can give you a 20% discount versus, I don't know if I want to work with you.
Yeah. And then increasing the odds that the relationship with the client and your people actually works, because we are aligned on values and the goal.
Yeah.
What I find interesting, and that's also something that I observe also in myself, that at the end, when we start our own companies, very often we try to solve our own problems. So for me, it's the topic of psychological safety, of feedback, and how we communicate with each other, and things that I have suffered from in the past and also in previous roles. And from you, I hear the frustration with your ideas couldn't fruit and weren't heard because there was a lack of the culture to actually include that and to support the high potentials made in organizations.
Yeah.
And that's just an assumption. So what did lead you to work more on company culture?
The first thing that led me to dig my own path was, I remember I was frustrated to a point, and my wife said to me, well, we have two options, right? Or you suck it up and adapt to your boss's, he doesn't see how the world is changing, or do something about it. And then one day I say, hey, I'm quitting my job. We just had our first kid, 3 months old. And say, you know what, I'm going to start a company. I say,
That's not what I saw.
Let's do it. But so what drove me, I think, is that it's easy to complain about the things that we don't like. And then, you were talking about psychological safety, right? And I don't want to get into this sensitive topic because in my book, I challenge a little bit how the concept has evolved. Even I've been training and running workshops over 8 years on the topic, but the concept of how the culture should be, whether it's professional, whether it's safe, whether it's open, whatever, creates an expectation that removes agency from people. So we're expecting someone else, whether it's the organization, which in the end, it happens to be people, right? Or my boss, or someone like my boss's boss, which we don't know, like in my case, my boss, to fix things for us, instead of saying, okay, I'm part of the problem, how can I be part of the solution? So we need to regain that agency. And what drove me to that is basically I saw a lot of clients having shitty companies and complaining about their teams, but I was saying to him that, don't you see what, like a lot of people saying, I'm emotionally intelligent emotionally and whatever, and I'm this, I'm super self-aware. Everyone like throwing all the my EQ super high, all this stuff, but then they were totally clueless, right? So in the business world, whether you work on marketing, advertising, I work a lot in innovation when I was in Chicago, whatever, it's really frustrating because very few ideas see the light of day. And usually the ones that don't are the ones that are more challenging, have a biggest potential. And one thing I saw, it works both ways. The client justifies the risk, their leaders, for not making a decision when they are the ones making it, right? Or they can push back, and the creators, whether it's an agency, the innovation firm, whatever, blame the client for not seeing the idea. But these guys cave too quickly, and these other guys are not allowed to challenge, and also they blame their bosses for not, you know what I mean? So we're not ready for that. Who's we, right? Who's not ready and ready for the what does ready mean for, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's that dynamic of, okay, it's like everyone's complaining about someone else, even we's or fictitious, like not people in particular, but they're not doing anything. So for me, that was okay. We need to work on that, guys.
And somehow it does relate to your opening anecdote. So what is in the way from having these real conversations where if instead of blaming each other and then slowly burning out, how can we learn to have the more honest conversations with each other to actually come to the core of a problem? Because everyone is playing the game and doing their own thing, office politics beyond the official processes. And then everyone complains about that.
I think that many people don't realize it, right? So there's intent. Some people do it for evil reasons, politics, but some people play the game because they don't realize or because that's what everyone's doing. So you learn by the people they teach you not to have those conversations. That's one of the things I discussed, that when you start your career, remember early in my career, they say, no, don't raise those issues. Don't speak up. Don't contradict your boss in front of the client. Don't push back on the client on the meeting. We manage that 101. You learn those avoidance tricks, which are really bad. I know I'm not going to get technical because if not, you're going to cut me.
Yes,
but,
please.
No. But the one study I conducted for the book, basically, I asked people, why do you think others don't speak up? Mm-hmm. And people say, because people are afraid. That came like the number one reason. But then I asked him, why don't you speak up? Why don't you? And the main reason was because people, what I call pointlessness paradox, feels that nothing's going to change. So either at some point they were having those conversations and nothing happened, so they gave up, or they never even tried. What happens is companies are really good at killing people's initiative, no? So you have to, and I train people that if you want to sell your idea, if you're really convinced about your idea, you have to fight like hell. Yeah. My motto, and I've done that in my career, I'd rather be fired for having a very strong defense of an idea, right, for one conversation, than being fired for 100 conversations I didn't have. Because in the end, you're going to suck at your job if you don't do what you're right. Even if I'm wrong with my idea, at least I'm committed. Mm-hmm. But if you then fail, what happens to a lot of people get frustrated. My boss didn't approve my idea, so they start becoming more like I don't care. They become detached, or what's the language that we like to use in the workplace? we're not engaged. Like I say, like people don't say, hey, I'm working on a project that is making me feel really engaged, right? That language that's so Gallup, but people don't talk like that. So I think that we don't realize that we are shooting ourselves on the foot.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always tell people, if you really, I mean, when they say, I have a great idea, say, are you willing to lose your job for your idea? And I know it's tough because people say, well, you know what? But if you're smart, you can get fired, especially in this country. There are 330 million people, there are jobs everywhere, or people can start their own business. And I say, like, are you willing to lose your job for your idea?
Mm.
And 90, whatever, no, this, I'm just giving you what people say. Yeah, no, it's not a statistic, just saying the vast majority say, no way.
Yeah.
So I say, do you really trust your idea? Because that's a test. I'm not asking people to lose their job. What I'm saying is, are you really, if you don't believe in your idea,
Yeah,
how can you expect your leader to believe on your idea?
did you have a situation like that where you were so convinced of an idea that you had the conversation and were ready to lose your job for it?
Yes. And once I lost it.
Tell me about that.
So that's why I'm saying people like, I don't encourage people to do things I haven't done at least 3 times myself. So not just because one is an exception, but I lost my job once in a company because of that. It was super toxic. There was a lot of people, and I was like, to my boss, I'm gonna speak up truth to power because that's why I'm paying the big bucks. If I don't do it, what kind of leader am I, right?
Yeah.
And I became a former leader.
So you spoke up.
Because my boss.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. No.
So if I understand correctly, there was a lot of happening with your teams and yourself in terms of burnout or mental health, and you spoke up to your boss about that.
Yeah.
And what was then the reason for him to fire you?
They didn't give me a reason, but the reason was basically she couldn't stand the truth. And basically one of the key things that happened is I was the president of a company, I was taking this, and then she came and told people, well, what, like giving contradictory directions or sitting doubt. Oh, like for example, Miriam told me that we're going to do this with these clients. Oh, do you think that's a good idea, what Miriam told you? And
yeah.
And some people try to work around it. Most people take the pill and say, no, it is what it is. Some people try to have the conversation. I had a conversation or another. So like
Wow.
And basically say, well, it looks that we're not on the same page. I say, not being on the same page is not a problem because we are meant to disagree. The problem is, are we trying to achieve the same things? Right? Because in the end, what matters is not about me, the people, it's about what's the outcome, what kind of product are we selling our clients, are the clients happy, are we growing the business in every direction? And she said, well, but I'm the boss, so professional. No, that's the belief. And you're talking about unprofessional, or if you don't stick to those beliefs that, oh, your boss is always right, then you're being unprofessional. I say, well, I'm super unprofessional.
And isn't that even worse that the losing a job for standing up for something that matters isn't even, from what I hear, it wasn't even directly related, or it didn't seem like it. It's not that you spoke up and then she said, walk out of here, we don't need you. But it was kind of the process in between, the bullying, the speaking behind the back, finding opportunities to decrease the trust, which is then even more painful.
Yeah, there were more than one conversation for sure, but the same conversation I have with my clients about if we're going to engage, like I say, I need the room, I need this. And so I set conditions in order for me to say we can work or not together. And when I was hired as an executive, I would say like, okay, if you hire me, I need to have total freedom to staff, right? And focus on, tell me what the goals are and measure me by the goals. But then what happens in between? And that's the point I had with her. Say like, when we have the first conversation, you told me you want to do this, say, I can deliver, but you need to give me total freedom.
Yeah.
The same way I give my team total freedom. I am the first to tell my team to, if you don't like something, please say it. If you don't like I'm open to being pushed back. And that, of course, exploded because it's like in the professional world, the leader the formal leader is always right, and
Until they're not. Yeah. Is this fear, is it power? Or is it misalignment? Or is it a lacking conversation?
it's a little bit of both. I think that first is a lack of clarity or of expectations. I think that many people, I'm truly believe many people confuse alignment with agreement, right? And that's really, really kind of a huge kind of a point. I say that agreement is what happens in the room, alignment is what happened afterwards, right?
Ah.
And usually
Okay.
people agree in the room, but then everyone implements in different directions. So
Because they hear something different?
no, because they don't care, because in the room they fake it. That's the point.
That's
Because the
even worse than that.
expectation is that you agree. Companies expect people to say, the leader presents in a town hall, and everyone say, oh, great strategy, yeah. That's the expectation for being professional. So people nod, they agree, they look supportive, but then when they go back to the real world, they do whatever they want, whatever they think it's right.
And in my naive mind, I would think
Sure.
I would think this is because they heard different things. So they agreed because they didn't dare to ask the clarifying question, or because there was no time to ask questions, or they really thought that they agreed, and then only later while doing the work they realized that the agreement meant different things. But from what I hear from you is that it might be very different, that there's different goals behind it.
Both things, right? So to be fair, it depends. So there are people that either they're unclear about what's being decided in most of the cases because there's no real conversation, because alignment it's imposed versus created, if you know what I mean. Second, there's no room for questions, there's no room for clarity. Leaders assume alignment. So I always tell people, like, we tend to think that if we say, hey guys, this is what, any questions, and people don't ask a question, so leaders say, oh, so we're all cool, right? Let's move forward. And actually silence should be interpreted as disagreement, not as agreement. So we always need to validate. Are we really aligned on this? A question I keep repeating is, what are we not aligned on? Because it's not we are aligned or we are not, which is black and white, but I might agree with certain directions. Maybe there are some nuances or responsibilities or whatever, or maybe the timing of a project. So by asking what are we not aligned on, first, as a leader, you're open the floor to, it's okay to disagree. But also you're saying that this is not a yes or no answer, there are nuances. So let's talk about those nuances, because usually teams get stuck in those nuances.
And you assume that there is misalignment on some degree.
Always.
Yeah. And I love that the sentence you just said, assume that silence means disagreement instead of agreement. And we usually do the opposite because it's easy.
It's easy, but also it's our expectation. Once again, leaders want to be right, so they look at signals that confirm that they're right.
Yeah.
This is a side story, if it can come me, but one thing I learned, I was talking about my first kid, when he learned to walk, right? He started walking really early. It's a bit, I love him. When he was, I don't know, 8-9 months, he started to walk. And the first time, parents, what we do, you hold the baby and they start walking towards your spouse. And they get there, I say, oh, no. Then they do it the other way around. Oh, here. The third time, what did he do? He went somewhere else. And that will give us a great insight of human behavior. Once we realize we are autonomous, we make our own choices. So we don't expect what the leaders want us to do.
Clearly your kid.
Sorry?
Clearly your kid looking for the freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, once we have the skills and the autonomy, we're looking for the new path. Love that. And you just said leaders love to be right. And you've been a leader in many different positions. Have you encountered the price of being wrong?
I've encountered the price of thinking I was right, but I wasn't, which is different. Because one thing is realizing that you're wrong, and the other is thinking that you're right when you're not. I'm not playing with words, but
Yes.
one thing is, oh, totally wrong. I learned, but the other is you double down on bad behavior. So I always joke, but I'm not joking. I say like part of the things that I'm applying with my clients are the screw ups I made when I used to be a leader or an employee, like big time.
Yeah. Yeah, the reason why I'm asking is if leaders want to be right. Of course, I think it feels great to be right. We all do. But what is actually the cost of being wrong? So what I mean by that is what is actually at stake if, as a leader, you're okay with not being right? What is there to gain? And what is there to lose if you're actually not?
The point is, when it's not about you, but about leaders don't work for themselves, they work for an organization, for a company. So when they are wrong, they make bad decisions that affect the business. But the point is that most leaders have been there, done that many times, prioritize what's good for you versus what's good for the other stuff, because you feel, I have the power, I'm the number one, so I should be, that you feel that you have a lot of liberties or like privileges, if may, that would be the right word to choose, versus realizing that you're not to dominate the conversation or to facilitate it. So in today's world, more than ever, you need to tap into that collective wisdom of all the people that you're paying also a lot to do. So you're more of a curator of ideas than the creator of the ideas, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have more liberty of being wrong these days? Working for yourself and having a name and prestige and being an author?
Yes and no. So I think that the freedom is still the same, but how we deal with that. So I was kind of going through a similar path that you were into. Okay, now it's the same way you rename your podcast. You started like killing your darlings and say, well, I need to kind of, I was a little bit on that. First, a more timid approach, right? Not progressive, but not like, and now I'm being maybe more upfront about, okay, I'm killing stuff, so I make room for new things, right? And in that sense, the pressure I'm putting on myself, like my new, not the book itself, but of course the book, but the framework and everything, it's like a new start. And when I did that in the past, I was more like, you know what, I'm going to jump. And now I'm a little more like, oh my God, this could be a huge screw up. So I have this duality. I have total freedom, but also I feel the what's at stake now feels bigger. And that's for me. Totally, right? So
feels bigger. It's bigger.
Sorry?
Does it feel bigger? Is it bigger? You're older, you have more to lose, maybe.
I'm old.
Well, older than before.
Well, but I'm getting 1 year away from becoming 60 now, so I'm good. I used to think people were old at 50, so imagine. No, there's a lot. Talking about unprofessionalism, I'm really happy about changing career when I was 50, taking risks, starting again and starting over, whatever. And now it's a little bit of that, but double down, right? I think that in the past, I was more black and white in terms of, okay, I finished my career, now I'm starting something new, instead of saying it's a connected tissue because I'm here because of everything I did. I learned a lot of stuff. So, and I wanted to kind of hide my past, so to speak. I don't know. Maybe I was embarrassed. I don't know. But I don't think that's the case. But it was a little bit of a kind of starting totally, not fresh, but like if it was, I haven't worked in my past with that before. But also that hurt me because I was missing a lot of, I work with over 500 brands across the world with large, so that when I started my business, I didn't have clients. But I have worked with every company you can imagine before, no? So I wasn't, so I didn't do a good job into that because I wanted to like cut everything loose. And now I'm into this because I, beyond the work I do, also write and stuff. I want this book to move me to the next level. And maybe that's my own narrative, my own pressure. Maybe I'm falling to the professionalism. What does it look? And it's a little bit of a burden. So I like to use this analogy that it was a marathon here in US, in Boston, which is very famous. You run. And there's this guy. Well, I know, but you run, not a marathon, but you run. Yeah, I know. And this guy from Kenya, I think it was, that ran it in 2 hours, 1 minute. Wow, right. And so I compare authors. So there are some people that are these runners that are going to be there like really fast. I'm never going to be there, and I'm okay with that. And I feel that I'm the third peloton, and now I want this book to take me to the second peloton. And maybe that's my own why. Is that going to make me happier? I don't think so. But maybe that's my struggle. So I'm putting a lot of expectations when I launch other books and whatever. Was like, but who cares? I finished it. And let's do it. Previously, I was more into doing everything myself. I had people, but it was more independent. Now I have a publisher and a publicist, and a lot of people. I hope they're not watching. They're doing a great job, but also I feel that there's more pressure, and actually it takes more of my time than when it was more chaotic and decentralized and whatever. Because there are a lot of experts, but also every time there's a good news, like everyone wants to own it. They fight to, and when something goes bad, well, but the article you wrote, I mean, we ask, it's me. So it's like, great, guys, I'm paying you. So when you win, it's you. When I lose, it's, oh, you sucked. So that's another concept of professional. Being professional means being successful, and everyone wants to be successful. But when we're not, we throw that unsuccess to someone else.
Yeah. And I even hear a different layer regarding professionalism in that before you did it your way, and you said, related to the earlier anecdote, that you love to choose your people with whom you work, and that defines your success. And now you're working with the professionals, and they know how to do the work. That's why you hire them. But you didn't choose the people, and now they define how things are done because they're doing it the professional way, which maybe reduces your degrees of freedom and playfulness.
Especially the latter. The playfulness. Yeah, and once again, they're not doing a bad job, but I think that the style is different. To your point, they have like, oh, this is how it works, and everything's like, and I try to, hey, let's find this, no, you shouldn't do this, and say, no, but who says we couldn't?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a trade-off, right?
It's and also learning. Not this a good lesson for me, but it's a paradox that one of the things I share in my book is how to reframe objections. So usually part of the conversations died because we want to win. We want to know who's right. And you want to do something and people say, no, we tried that before and it's not going to work. Or we don't have budget for that. Or you're not, no. So we say, well, how can we make it work since the conditions change? Or what can we deprioritize so we make money for funding this? And also changing this is not going to work to, okay, we cannot make decisions because the leader is not here. Well, what decisions can we make with the power that we have? Yeah. So it's all regaining that agency. And doing that, I'm falling and saying, guys, I wrote a book about this, and then telling me, no, this cannot be. No way. No way.
Interesting, yeah. The universe is challenging you.
Yes. It's not only a paradox, it's more ironic than everything else.
It's very ironic, yes. And maybe a great case study, actually. Oh.
Yes.
What is something unprofessional that you would still advise others to do?
I don't want to repeat myself, but speak up your mind, right? Believe in your ideas, and ideas always start like in Pixar. They say that initial ideas are like ugly babies, and of course, many people my baby's not ugly, but babies when they're born, they look kind of ugly and it's a thing that don't believe in your idea, believe in the potential of your idea. But if you don't start with that crappy baby or ugly baby, then you're not going to get there. And I think that's unprofessional, because professionalism is about perfectionism, it's about polished things, about people want to see this is great. Well, life is messy, ideas are messy, so embrace the messiness, if you will, not just when it comes to idea, but everything. And it's usually seen as unprofessional, but you know what? You're going to remove the dust or not. Don't take my advice. That's why would you?
Oh, unprofessional.
Exactly right.
Thank you, Gustavo.
Of course. For what?
For seeing a different Gustavo this time.
Okay.
Different stories. Love it.
This was a conversation without the script. Now it's your turn. I'm Miriam Hatmas, and this has been Unprofessionalism.